My name is Katie and welcome to my video. Before we get into the nonfiction history books that I have to recommend, a couple things I need to address. First, my background is different, and that is because there are people home right now. Typically, I try to film when nobody's home, but that didn't work out so well this time, so we're making do. The second thing is, I have a headache from staring at a computer screen all day. So if I'm not super enthusiastic, it's not because of the books, it's because of me. So let's just get into the 7 books that I want to talk about today. The first 2 are The Crown, Volumes 1 and 2 by Robert Lacey. These were written to be a companion to the Netflix show The Crown, and overall, I think they were pretty good. I watched them in conjunction with the show. I would read the chapter that the next episode was based off of, and then I would watch that episode. And it really helped because there were a lot of things that I know I would have been looking up to see what was true and what was not true, and what was maybe exaggerated or maybe what wasn't mentioned that maybe should have been. I will say, one kind of critique that I have is Volume 1 is considerably larger than Volume 2, even though Volume 1 only covers Season 1, and Volume 2 covers Season 1 and 2. Because of that, I felt that there was a lot that I still needed to do research on as I was watching Seasons 2 and 3. Is it a big deal? Not really. However, I think I would have preferred that they add a little bit more information and maybe had split the books up into Volume 2 to go with Season 2 and Volume 3 to go with Season 3. The next book on the list is The Last Palace, Europe's Turbulent Century and 5 Lives in One Legendary House by Norman Eisen. I read this book earlier this year and really enjoyed it, so much so that even though I've mentioned it in other videos recently, I felt it was worth mentioning again. The book centers on a palace that was built by Otto Petschek, who was a Jewish financier after World War I. It follows the inhabitants of the house, starting with the builder and his family, all the way up to the author himself, who was able to live in this house when he was a United States ambassador to Prague. I found the stories told in this book to be captivating. Eisen does a good job at not only bringing to life the inhabitants of the palace, but also the palace itself. The next book on the list is Devil in the Grove, Thurgood Marshall, The Groveland Boys, and the Dawn of a New America by Gilbert King. I listened to this book on audiobook last month, and it really shook me up. The book follows Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP's defense of the Groveland Boys, who were 4 black men living in Florida who were falsely accused of rape by a 17-year-old girl who lived in the area. The horrifying things that these men went through and the miscarriage of justice in this case was appalling. I found myself to be so shaken up by it that I kept having to find people to talk to because I just needed to get it off my chest. I needed somebody to discuss it with. I'm not at all surprised that this book won the 2013 Pulitzer for general nonfiction, because it was an incredibly well-written, yet infuriating read. The next book I would like to discuss is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. I'm not entirely sure if this would be classified as science or history, but since history is in the title, I'm counting it here. If you spend much time watching book content on YouTube, then you've probably already heard of this one because it's quite popular. I agree with the majority here. The author gives both scientific and historical evidence for the things he discusses in the book, but he also adds in his own theories as well, which I found to be really enjoyable. If I have one gripe with this book, it's that the last few chapters, which bring us into modern day and the future of Homo sapiens, didn't really interest me as much as the previous chapters did. However, I do understand why they were included, and I definitely plan to read more from this author. Next up on the list is The Woman Who Would Be King, Hatshepsut's Rise to Power in Ancient Egypt by Cooney. This book was a little weird because due to life being unpredictable, it took me about 2 months to finish it. This didn't dampen my enjoyment of the story at all, though. If you don't know, Hatshepsut is ancient Egypt's longest reigning female pharaoh. I have to applaud Cooney's work here because Hatshepsut lived so long ago, there's not a whole lot known about her life. So she supplemented what was known with generally known information about the time. Obviously, this leads to quite a bit of speculation, but the author clearly presents it as educated speculation. And either way, I learned a lot about ancient Egypt that I didn't previously know. The final book on my list, though I could have added more, was Dead Wake, The Last Crossing of the Lusitania by Erik Larson. Erik Larson is a pretty popular name in the historical nonfiction world, and in my opinion, for good reason. I read this book quite a while ago, so a lot of my detailed thoughts on it, I don't remember anymore. What I do remember was finding it really interesting, and I was constantly telling people facts that I learned from the book. As the title suggests, the book follows the last voyage of the Lusitania that was sunk by its German U-boat in May of 1915. Surprisingly, though, I think I learned the most about President Wilson from this book. And those are all the historical nonfiction books on my list. If you have read any of these, or if any of these sound interesting to you, please let me know in the comments below. If you have any book recommendations for me, I would also love to hear them. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!